The title of my presentation today is The Impact of Teachers' Knowledge About Language on English Language Learners' Language Focus and Use in Small Group. Basically, teachers know something, whether it has anything to do with the students' performance in small groups. So, and that is me, and that is my name. And then I belong to the School of Education. I love children and young adult literature. Basically, the endowed collection in the library is my endowed collection. So, and then I love doing grants, and I think it is really fun. And then I'm in the third wave of my my life at UWT. I have been with UW for 40 years. So I have seen two generations of, two waves of UWT. I'm going into my third wave, still going strong. So it's really fun. And I love writing grants. I love the focus. I love the intensity. I think it's as good as knitting. So that is how my world goes. And it's still on me. So, well, but basically, I started very small. I start with getting internal grants, a few $1,000s. And then before I get to federal grants, then now I get millions. So it is not a joke. It is a fact. Yeah, I'm ready to move on. So my last project, which I just I'm finishing, the no-cost extension year, and this is a 5-year federal grant. We call it Project KAL, teaching English language learners, talk about building communities of practice at school. Basically, the teachers are not well trained, and we are putting teacher interns there, so it is more reasonable to train the teachers and our student teachers at the same time. For the last federal grant, we got 3 major school districts: Tacoma, Federal Way, and Auburn. Why those 3? But look around, they are the 3 closest to us, and I believe in the UWT mission. We're here, we serve our local folks. Talk about English language learners in 2025, the projection is 1 out of 4 students in public schools. And that is very scary. And then I realized that now it's 2018. That means I only have a few more years to go. Wow, time is running short. And then in Washington State, there's a tremendous growth. And Tacoma, in the last 4 years, 67% spike of year learner. I said, oh my goodness, I don't know how to deal with that. So today, I'm going to report on a small portion of my project. It's the year 4 of a 5-year grant, basically on the MOOC data that I teach. I taught a MOOC collaborating with Stanford. And then the highlight of the project are 2 wonderful student workers, and Annie Kamikor was my grant coordinator because she did so well at the MOOC. She was stolen from me by Stanford, and I still hold grudge against them. So Austin was so good, and then because we pay out so many stipends, like several hundred checks at one time, and she did it all. Now she became a fiscal analyst at UW. You know, it's very good. And basically, the purpose of this particular research is to look at the pathways, what teachers do to get students to use English language in small group discussion. And we just focus on a subdata, 136, because those are my grant partners. There are other students, there are other participants that I'm not going to talk about that in this presentation. We talk about 129 teachers, 5 principals, and 3 paraprofessionals in this particular group of data. They all took the MOOC. And basically, we're looking at the conceptual framework. Yes, a lot of teachers can speak English. Do they know the language enough to teach it? Yes, they know it. You know it, it doesn't mean that you can teach it. Think about teaching somebody to drive the car. You just wonder whether the students are dumb or we are just so our knowledge is so fossilized. So basically, it's the same concept. And then we talk about in the second language learning and the first language learning, we have to inspire our students that language is good, language is fun, language is very intriguing. We can use language to do a lot of things. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to talk about. So basically, we need to differentiate between 2 things. What you know, and do you know the procedures? Our teachers may know, it's assumption. But whether they can teach is another story. It's the content knowledge and the pedagogical content knowledge. Well, this is our wonderful theoretical framework talking about, you know the language proficiency, you know the content, and then with all the knowledge in you, then what? Can you teach? So in the MOOC, we assume that the teachers may not know much, so we send them to take lessons. And then we have pre and post surveys, and then we have assignments, and we have a test. So it's the self-report data, and then we actually give them a test. Because they're grant partners, we pay them, so they can do it, because they receive stipends from the grant. And then we use simple t-tests, and we also have narrative analysis of their transcript. We are very happy at the beginning, because the teachers look at the pre and post survey, they consider themselves learned. Very good. And when they took the test, it's statistically significant. Oh, we celebrated. And we reported the data to the government. This is a screenshot of the survey that we asked them to take, because it's everything online. And harvesting the data it's very difficult. It's so difficult. And Austin was so good in organizing the data to a point that we can use it. So we also give them tests and see how well they know. So basically, we give you 2 screenshots about what we have done. Basically, I gave this presentation in the American Association of Applied Linguistics last month, so I kind of pick a few slides and put them in. If they are not coherent, this is my problem. And then we look, and then after the quantitative analysis, I decided to dive in to look at the narrative. And I look at the language objective, and I look at the prompts, what teachers start to say when in the beginning of the small group discussion. And then some teachers, they have good language objective, and then the teacher prompt and the student follow up, it didn't follow through. And then the third one, well, because it's 3 seconds. Number 1, the teacher knows it because we have data we have results to support it. But when I dive in to look at the discussion transcript, they didn't do it. I was horrified. and then I read through almost all the qualitative data. Yes, I'm a little bit nutty. I think it's fun. And I look for those who are successful. And then I realized that teachers declare the objectives, and then that's it. And then they went ahead and they did something else. Shame. And then some of them got the objective, and then they got the question, and then they let the students take over the class. Not good. So for teachers to be successful, yes, you know it, you got the stuff, but you still have a clear objective. You still make sure that when you open the mouth, the first problem come out, have to be on track. And then when the students are students, they're off track, gently bring them back. Not cut them off, not chop them off, but bring them back. You have to be like that, so we have strong data. So for us, for the teacher trainers, we know that. Giving them the declarative knowledge is important, but not sufficient. We have to make sure that the procedural knowledge is there, that they can teach students, especially the EL learners. And this is my 21st slide. So I have 3 seconds. So my friends, basically, I think that working with students are great. They make the research very successful. And then as for me, I make sure that my student workers are very successful. Yes, they are allowed to be stolen. Yeah, I just have to accept that. And then getting grants is fun. I've been here for 26 years. I started with internal grants, a few $1,000s, and then I have Spencer Foundation grant, I have the state grants, and I have federal grants. And it takes 6 years to build to this point. So it is not a one-day thing. It's a snowball effect. And then the whole journey is very rewarding to me personally. Thank you for listening.